My man! Welcome to the show. How are you? Really excited as a parent and as a person of color to have our guest today. Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey guys, what's up? It's Irfan. I'm super excited to have my next guest on the show. Her name is Ruhi Rastogi. She is out of Texas. She is the owner and operator of two fitness studios, F45 Fitness Studios. Ruhi, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm honored to be here, Irfan. Very excited for this.
So let me tell you why you're on the show. You have a very unique background. On paper, I see somebody, a South Asian background, right? And somebody who's worked in the tech space. So when I, as a person also of South Indian background, when I see something like that, I automatically think, oh, they're tech, they're Indian, they must be a certain type of person. Automatically put them in a box. I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's what I do as a consequence of talking to a lot of people. But once I spoke with you, once I looked at your social profiles, you are very much a maverick. So I want to unpack that a little bit. I want to talk about your journey, how you grew up, where you ended, your career trajectory into the tech space and doing what you did. And it seems like you almost took a flyer, and I don't want to give away too much and launch an entrepreneurial journey, but tell me about who you are and how you started on this path.
All right. So thanks to my dad, he was a doctor and he loved to travel. And his philosophy was to go out there, be in the real world, interact with as many cultures, religions, countries, see everything you possibly can. So as a result, I was born in Nigeria. And then we moved back to India. I wrapped up my schooling over there. But from the 9th grade, we moved to Kuwait. So I was in Kuwait for 5 years. And after doing my graduation, I moved to the United States back in 2000 for my computer engineering. So yes, when you want to put me in the box, that was the box I was in. However, I saw myself in the mirror, and I knew that I love to interact with people, and I couldn't envision myself sitting at a desk and just coding or just, writing emails and code. So I knew I had to do something where I get to interact a lot more, and I also get exposure to different sides of how every business is created. So I saw myself all the way down working from $11 billion company to changing jobs into smaller firms. And towards the end of my corporate career, I was a senior director of quality for an augmented reality startup. And this was back in LA. So I had all my, 20 years in California. So I had a successful career over there. And again, after working for multiple startups, then I was like, okay, I want to take my own script. I want to write my own design, and I want to do a business based on what I have learned this far and see, just experiment. And my dad always wanted to, his philosophy was, give it a try. If it works, good. If it doesn't work, good. It's okay. Try again. So that's what made me getting into a business of my own. And yeah, that's how F45 started.
Very cool. Okay, so let's go back. There's a few things that I want to explore in a bit more detail. So you're like this global citizen. You're born in Kenya, you lived in Kuwait, all different parts of the globe, and you probably just gave me a sliver of that experience. And then you moved to California, where you worked in the tech space. As someone who's lived in all these different countries, who's got a little bit different perspective, right? Their upbringing, the lens at which through which they view the world tends to be a little bit richer. They have more perspectives, and I'm a bit partial to this because I'm envious. And I've met several people that I count as friends who've also lived in many parts of the world, and they bring so much value to the corporate experience, I think, when they're on a team and other things. But when you found yourself in these environments, did you have trouble fitting in? Did you feel at any point like, hey, I'm the only person, I don't really feel that this is a fit for me, outside of the fact that you felt like, okay, I need to be in front of people, I want more energy in my day-to-day, but outside of that, from a corporate culture perspective, were there any challenges that you feel you had?
I would jokingly say other people had more challenges dealing with me. The reason I say that is I've always been the person who's curious about who I am talking to or which environment I am in. So it led me to not focus on how I am feeling or how I am exposed, but to keep on learning from others. It was always about, oh, okay, you are from Bangladesh, and I want to know what's the economy of Bangladesh. Or if you're Canadian, I want to know like what else is there other than maple syrup and timber and other industries. I was always curious, and that got me to reach out to people without feeling embarrassed or feeling that, hey, I don't know what I'm going to ask. So that kept me so busy. And during these interactions, I just learned so much about different parts of the world. And that, more than me traveling to countries, that part makes me a global citizen, I would say.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. What was the catalyst? I know you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but what was the catalyst of you saying, you know what, I've worked in this space, I'm a director, I'm making good income, very stable role, I know what sort of my day-to-day is, to saying, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and wipe my hands of that, and I'm going to go start this. I know you're also a very analytical person, so was there sort of a Eisenhower box of sorts that you listed the pros and cons and said, hey, I'm going to give myself 6 months? And what was that process like?
So I had the original seed when I was in college, when I had just entered this country, and I just saw there was so much scope for just doing anything. And then the opportunities that were presented to me being, if I were in any other part of the world, I don't think I would have reached to the heights that I did over here. So just looking at the potential, the opportunities, and what my mind was doing, I already knew that I wanted to do something of my own. And so throughout the corporate life, I was learning a lot, and it was a reminder every single year I was spending in the corporate world that nope, I think I'm more confident now. I do want to do something. It's also an emotional decision, because I feel that when I interact with people, I'm able to add some value. And when I interact with a client, for example, and I just give them a compliment, or I recognize that, hey, something is different about you, or hey, just yesterday, one of the clients, she has leaned in quite a bit. She has leaned up. So I gave her that compliment. It just gave her a natural smile. And that, the gratitude and the gratification I get just by making that impact, it energizes me. It fulfills me. So I knew that when I was going to interact myself with the clients and manage different departments of the company myself, I'll be able to add value, but at the same time keep myself energized and fulfilled. So it has a little bit of an emotional feeling attached to it too.
Is that where you derive a lot of your gratification from?
Yes, I'll be very honest with you. It was an easier time when I was in the corporate world, because no matter what happens, every 2 weeks, I was getting a big check directly deposited in the account. And once you leave the office, you do have some concern on what you can do to improve the business, but at a certain point, it is not yours. So the engagement is limited. And but when you do the business of your own, it's 24/7. And so every single win and every single loss or failure is yours. So whatever positive you can collect, it has to impact in a way that it keeps you going despite of everything. So yes, a lot of self-worth, self-confidence, and the consistent motivation to keep going, it comes from that.
Insightful. why fitness? You could have owned a Subway franchise. You could. I know you wouldn't open us. Not that there's anything wrong with Subways. We sure they have great sandwiches. But what was on your list of things that you wanted to evaluate, and why F45?
So first things first, I looked it on paper. I wanted to follow a franchisor because I didn't want to use too much of, my brain power trying to deal with a lot of developing things. I wanted to go the franchise model. I did research and I looked at the top 10, and F45 popped up as one of the top ones. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. So during my research period, I joined one of the F45s in LA. Is the Pasadena location. And I became their member for 4 months, and I became addicted. And I was going 5 to 6 times a week. And my entire schedule, personal schedule for the rest of my day was dependent on which class I'll be taking. So I got a lot of confidence that, hey, if I'm in so much love with this product and it looked very, very innovative, I knew that, okay, this is something I can sell. And then the last part, which is now probably the 80% of the answer, is when I saw in the fitness industry what the potential is to create an impact, that became the biggest portion of that answer. So we are moving in a direction where it's all AI, and we're compromising a little bit on human to human interaction. If we are on our phones, on social media for such a long time, well, in that time, we could have interacted, we could have gone out and be at a park with another friend. So when people come together in my class, all these people are leaving their phones away, they're leaving their electronics, they are actually interacting with humans. And the 45 minutes of workout, it's not just the fitness that they are improving, they're also improving so many other non-fitness things. Like it gives you an emotional balance, it makes you happy, it makes you feel accomplished. And even if you lose 1% body fat, it makes you feel that, yes, you have some control over your habits and your lifestyle. And so the results that come out of anyone joining my studio, it goes beyond fitness, and the entire result together collectively, that eventually became my why of why I wanted to do this. So that keeps me going.
Got it. Every chain fitness center gym has a different ethos, has a different mission, vision statement, and other things. You've got Orange Theory, you've got Gold's Gym, you've got a multitude, Planet Fitness, there's a multitude of options that consumers have. What do you think differentiates not just F45, but your particular franchises in terms of having an impact on people, and why they would want to sign up for a membership with you?
Well, first, I think F45 does a great job in aligning itself with the latest and greatest technology. So
Okay.
It's very challenging, and it keeps on staying challenging because we are constantly modifying the programming. So that's one thing. The programming of it is very, very powerful, very innovative. The second thing I would say is that personal touch that we focus on bringing into the studio. And instead of having 1,000 clients and not knowing their names and not being able to have a one-on-one conversation and asking them that, hey, why are you drinking that much? Let's look at, what you're eating, what you are drinking, and how it's impacting you, and how can we get you results faster? That personal interaction sometimes get compromised when you are at a larger scale facility. Also, from studio to studio, it also changes how much the owner is engaged or how much the team is engaged with the clients. So I like to know almost all of my clients and I myself work out there. So I work out with the clients myself. So just having that chemistry, taking the time to say hi to everyone in the class, every single class I take myself, that makes a difference. I've heard that many times, that that does make a difference, that the owner is involved, engaged, wishes you on your birthday, hangs out outside of the studio, attends birthday parties, organizes events, things like that. So yeah, I would say that.
Do you feel that you have to almost be multiple people? Like there's the business owner version of you where you're managing growth, you're doing the administrative tasks, and then there's the, bright and shiny person that we see in the studio. Is that the real you? Is it a seamless transition? Is it just one person? As an introvert, I would be terrified of going into your type of a role because I'd be like, oh man, I don't want to talk to anybody, you know? But that's just me. How do you manage that?
It is different sides of you. And I would say more than different sides of you, it's the different mindset you are in at a particular time. So
Okay.
when I am in class, I enter the studio sometimes as an owner that I want to take care of my clients. But sometimes I'm entering just as a member. I just want to work out. If I'm not in a good mood, I just smile instead of interacting a lot, and I just focus on the workout. When I'm talking to my team, then I know that I want to be friendly with my team, but there's also responsibility to be able to manage them. So that's a very, very volatile area, and that's a difficult balance to manage. And then there are times when business is not doing well, and you sometimes have to hide it or try to forget it for some time, and then put a pin on it and come back to it. Because you and I, we also need some escape to go someplace and gather that motivation and energy again, and then put that into the business side or something that is not working. So yeah, it's compartmentalized. It's also the same person. It's different mindsets, different moods, different intentions. Yeah, everything in one.
Let's talk a little bit about leadership and managing a team. You've got a business in multiple locations. How do you keep everyone focused on what they're supposed to be doing? Is a lot of it like rah, let's go team, or, because you don't strike me as somebody who can artificially just be like, yay, I'm the cheerleader today and we're going to do it or whatever. What's your leadership style?
First things, I like to treat my team almost like they're my children. I like to take care of them. I like to inspire them and motivate them to be wanting to do a good job rather than demanding that you need to do this. And if you don't meet this numbers, this is going to be the consequence. What I'm learning these days, and there's a lot more to learn on this, is how do you take your vision and you align it with your team so they not only understand their role, but they also understand how important their role is to reach that vision. So giving them more insight into why this task is assigned or why this project is important. So for example, one of my businesses, I need to make a better impact on the profit. So for the last 2 months, I've been focusing a lot more on cost reduction. But when I explained that this is why I am doing this, and in order to achieve this, I need help from all these areas, that made their life their role a little bit more clear on why they have to do that. Other than that, I like to be friends with my employees. So when I'm working out, I'll just, connect with one of my employees and, hey, are you working out at this class? I'm going to work out with you. Or, hey, I've been lazy and I want you to kick my ass. That's also a thing. So I would say that's my style.
Okay,
It,
very
it
cool.
does backfire once in a while. It's not always effective, but I think that's the kind of person I am. I accept what doesn't work with that style.
That's a good point. I think it comes down to the way that's most effective for each of us is being true to yourself. And, when you first start a business, there's an element of imposter syndrome whether or not you're qualified to be leading a team at all. And you find that at different stages of your growth, you have to sort of reinvent yourself as a leader and who you are. So for example, when I was a freelancer, a business of one, and I would talk, I was not necessarily, and I'm not necessarily a big believer in the fake it till you make it, because that takes up so much space in your brain in terms of how you think you should act. I would introduce myself as CEO, and our team, or our, it's just literally me, and when you go from that to going to 5 employees, going to 10 employees, right? Now we're closer to about 48, I think, is our total headcount. It takes a while to feel like you have the actual skill within you, and you can try to mimic other people that you see that are, at the stage that you want to be at, or where how you think you should act, but it's never effective. It always feels so fake, at least for me, right? And so I think at the end of the day, your advice is really, or how you explained your leadership style makes a lot of sense. Is like, look, I've got objectives, and this is who I am as a person. I want to be friendly. I want to create a positive work environment. That said, I know what my weaknesses are as well, and I know what that leads to, and bad or good, that's sort of what we have to live with as entrepreneurs and as business owners. And you find that as you grow at every stage, as long as you're making less of the same mistake, that usually leads to progress and growth. Speaking of growth and speaking of progress, where would you like to see yourself in a year from now, in 2 years from now? You strike me as a driven person, right? So I'm not sure that you're happy with 2 studios. Maybe you are. I don't know. So let me ask you the question versus assuming.
I think I want to focus on maximizing the potential from these 2 studios. I don't think I'm going to open a third one anytime soon, because there's so much capacity still to grow. Once I have enough clients in the studio, then I want to focus on how do I further improve the quality of service I can provide to the existing clientele. So I think in the next 1 to 2 years, I want to focus more on maximizing the existing studios. After that, I don't know, I think I'm going to get into something else, which is not fitness related. I have no idea what that might be, but don't know what the future holds, but it will be something different, something that I'll surprise myself with, because being an Indian lady, I have a lot of pride and a sense of accomplishment of owning 2 fitness studios. So it's not very usual, and it's not something you are, born with that thought that I'm gonna, own a gym. So I like surprising myself. I know I have it in me to do something unique, but it will be something in the space where I am interacting with people. That I'm very passionate about that. And I'm passionate about traveling. So it might be something to do with that.
Yeah, I would have ventured to guess that. I know that you're very passionate, you're very driven, and you're also very multidimensional. So maybe we'll see you leading trips to the moon or trips to Bali that incorporate fitness somehow, and zero gravity. I don't know. But I think certainly watching you on social media, your Instagram and other things will keep us all in the loop. Ideally, who is your ideal client at an F45? What do they look like? What is their age range? Can you share something about the demographics of the typical individual who would feel the most value from an F45?
That's a very good question. From a business standpoint, I would say anyone who has their credit card and on file. But jokes aside, I think when we have different personalities, there are some that are positive, and then there are some that are not so positive. So I think the more positive personalities we bring into the studio, they not just focus on their workout, they automatically and in a very natural, organic way, they just share and spread more happiness around in the studio and more energy. So I would say a perfect client would be who either we can get to smile or they smile naturally when they are in the studio. They are open to our suggestions. They're open to what kind of fitness goals they have and open to our suggestions. A lot of our clients we have just become friends with. And so I still have, I think about 60 clients that are there even before the COVID time. So now those clients are now friends and we hang out quite a bit. So we've become good friends with our clients.
Talk to me a little bit about your challenges. How long have you owned the studios?
So the first studio, about 4 years. And
Wow,
then
okay.
I acquired the second one just last year. So that one's fairly new.
Okay. Well, what are some of your biggest challenges with respect to optimizing your businesses?
One of the biggest challenges is to retain good talent when it comes to my own team, and constantly thinking about how do I incentivize the team to want to stick with me. So I've been very, very fortunate that most of my team has stuck with me since the beginning. So for a long time now. So that's one of the challenges. And I think that's across the entire fitness industry. The other challenge is that it's retention. So because of so much competition in the area, everyone has a lot of choices. And when people have a lot of choices, they do want to try out different stuff. So a lot of people join, but then a lot of people leave too. Either they're moving to the suburbs or they're going for further education, or they didn't get results for some reason. So retaining clients and showing them the value and getting them to see the results, and keeping them happy, keeping them feeling that they belong to this fitness family. And it's not just a random gym. It's a place where they come in to escape from the day-to-day strain and stress, and an opportunity to take care of their body. So client retention and keeping them happy, that is a major challenge. And the most recent challenge I've gone through is when I acquired the second studio. I have my own ways of handling stuff and managing business. And when you are acquiring a gym that's already existing, or it goes for any business, there's a certain way it's already set. So some things you have to accept, some things you actually admire, and while some things you have to undo and redo in a different manner. So it's been very different to open one studio from the beginning and having it as my own versus taking one over. So that has been a challenge, my most recent one.
Interesting. What changes do you see in your space in the next 12, 24 months for your business?
I think we have enough population in the entire world for all sizes of fitness gyms to coexist. So I think in the next 10, 12 years, we will still have big box gyms and we will still have the boutique studios. One thing that I foresee is the more dependence on feeling personalized service. And I think people want to feel welcomed. They want to know that, hey, I have a group of friends over there, and I have a team who cares for me. They talk to me, and if I have any issue, I can talk to them. And just spending quality time. So I think dependence on that is only going to increase now with ChatGPT, with so much of AI. I think the human interaction is going to have more importance. So yeah.
Is there a book that's had an impact on your life that you would recommend to others?
Yeah, so many. The very first one was gifted to me by my brother, and that was Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Sure, sure.
That I think that had a huge impact on my personality and the way I turned out to be. And then few of the most recent ones are How to Never Lose a Customer, and then I think these days I'm reading a lot of books focused on sales. So
For
yeah,
sure,
lots
for
of books
sure,
out there.
for sure. What keeps you up at night right now?
I think when something goes well, we tend to celebrate. But when something doesn't go well, we tend to feel like a failure and blame yourselves and come up with why you didn't do this. I should have done this. I should have done that. So I think what keeps me up at night these days is how do I have a more balanced transition between when something works and something doesn't work? And I want to work on how do I minimize that gap so I can be more of a stable person, psychologically speaking, and not let these little wins and failures affect who I am as a person. And that's also a journey I want to take on so I can maintain my happiness level independent of how my business is doing. Because I think there have been many times where I started to identify myself as how my business is doing. And I think I want to have a distinction between the two and to understand that business is something I decided to do and it's not who I am. So yeah, I just want more mental stability and more peace of mind and more balanced outlook towards life, work, relationships, passion, what I want to do in life, everything. Yeah.
I appreciate you being so transparent. Not so many people would be comfortable putting themselves out in such a vulnerable way. So thank you. I think people will certainly appreciate that. What advice would you have to just people in general that are thinking about starting a business and going out on their own and transitioning away from their corporate career? And maybe more specifically, what advice would you give to young South Asian women that might be feeling stuck and want to scream or want to say, gosh, I want to do this thing, but there's other forces at play that are preventing me from feeling like I have the confidence to go out and do whatever that thing is?
One of the things I would like to say is that don't wait until tomorrow. If you want to do something, if you want to experiment, if you have a wish, if you have certain thing inside your heart, a dream that, something you want to achieve, just start. Don't wait too much. Don't plan for years and years and years that only when that happens, I'll do it. So be a little playful, even with important projects. The other thing is when you go into it, have a lot of passion, because being a small business owner, this passion is what keeps you going through the failures. And there's going to be many, and you have to be not just headstrong, but you need to have that drive, that passion towards it. Find something other than making profit to give you a sense of achievement. Because if it's just profit that's connecting you to how you feel, then it's going to go a lot of up and down. And then the last advice I would give, that would be on a personal side, is don't compromise on your personal life, your relationships that mean the world to you, and not give quality or not give time to that to make it work for the business, because relationships matter the most. You
Well
want
said.
success, but then you want people to celebrate it with. So yeah.
Absolutely. I could talk about that by itself for an hour, but most people have already heard that story and I don't want to beat it to death. But yes, that is really good advice.
I got that advice from my husband, because I hear it a lot from him. So it's coming.
Yeah. I can imagine. I've been on the receiving end of that advice from my wife as well. But fortunately, I learn and I'm willing to take advice from folks that I care about, as are you, I know.
Yeah.
So listen, like I was saying, it's always a pleasure to connect with you. You're such an intelligent, brilliant, thoughtful, intentional individual. And I always feel like anytime I get a chance, an opportunity, even in the few discussions that we've had since I've known you, it's like, okay, gosh, she's really interesting. I really like her approach, the way that she thinks about XYZ. So, and I think our listeners will enjoy it as well. So thanks so much. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they got questions, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. You can share my email. And yeah, so many
All
ways.
right. Awesome. Well, listen, Ruhi, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Irfan. It was lovely talking to you.